Watch. From pew to pixel, how Flat Creek Baptist Church opened its digital front door, and how any size church can be a connected church with media, web, and social outreach. Led by Kyle Culpepper and Pastor Josh Saefkow. Get the free media starter kit and presentation slides as downloads.
What I've learned about being a part of a legacy church is we're all interim pastors. Bill Priester is still in our church. He's been there for over 50 years with Miss Joan. I understand I'm a beneficiary for what he and Miss Joan have done. Also with Jerry Cross and what he has done there, and just so thankful for the rich history of what Flat Creek has in our community. But I'm also here to testify to you of a church that has some sacred cows, that has had to navigate through some really tough water. And my aim today is to be as gut level and transparent before you as I possibly can. And what we've done in the last, Christmas Day will be 9 years that I've been at Flat Creek. And I'm grateful for the story that God is writing. I'm grateful for where we're going. And we have a big heart to reach our community as you do. And I think we're better together. Last Sunday, I talked about in the 1800s about how New Hope and Flat Creek were partnering together to reach the community. I shared minutes from the 1800s about how Line Creek, from the Fairburn Baptist Associational meeting, 1800s, in the minutes from how an unusual meeting took place between Line Creek Baptist Church and Flat Creek Baptist Church, and 80 additions were brought to Flat Creek because of their work of the unsaved. So I say this is, we've been collaborating for a long time. We're in this together. We want this to be something that you can walk away with saying, we're in this together. We want to see revival happen. Let it happen within us as the body of Christ, not just at Flat Creek. We want it to happen everywhere. We want to just put wind in the sails as you leave here today. And I got to tell you, the picture you see on the screen and this man right here, I love dearly. I'm so grateful for what you're about to hear, because you could go to a conference, and he is a guy that you would go to a conference and hear. He works for Liberty University, a small little school in Lynchburg. You may have heard of it. And he's a brainchild. And I'm so blessed with that team right there that are all volunteers, and this guy included, who's a volunteer. We don't have someone on staff driving this. This is all volunteer-based. But it started with a heart of COVID. How do we reach our community in COVID when everything shut down? And God assembled a team from 0 to 100. And he's going to talk to just a little of those steps along the way. And I just want to say a word of thanks and appreciation for not only a key deacon, leader in Flat Creek Baptist Church, but one of the things I love most, this is my brother-in-law. And I'm so grateful to God for his leadership in our church. And he'll never know how thankful I am for he and his wife. So I'm going to give this to Kyle, and as we go along, you'll have questions. And from a leadership, senior pastor perspective, let's just be honest and talk about some of the challenges we face today, because he's going to open up the hood, and you're going to hear the things that we're doing. It might be wrong, right, or whatever in your mind, but we're open to that conversation. I want you to know that, and we can dialogue about it. Kyle?
Perfect. A couple things to know about me. I have a very dry sense of humor. And so if you get uncomfortable, just laugh. It'll make me feel better. So Josh is my brother-in-law. A funny story to start off, when I first came to the church with my other brother-in-law that also is on AV, nobody knew we were all related to Josh. And we go upstairs, and I thought they did. And so I was being dry and making fun of the pastor. And they were giving us a tour, and about halfway through, like the leader up there said, "I don't think this is going to work out, man." And but no, I do love Josh, and he is he's very supportive of everything we do up there. He gives us a vision, and it's something that is important, and it's a part of the process. I also want to say I'm not a consultant. I don't sell anything. So I put together a kit, and that's just research that we used to build this. So I reserve the right to say I have no idea, because a lot of times I don't. And so if you have questions, I will do my best to answer them. But if not, we can hopefully get you pointed in the right direction. But before I kind of go down, I think what would be a natural break here, Jimmy, would be, let me tell you kind of our journey, and then maybe the last half we could do into specific technologies and our team breakup and stuff like that. There's kind of a natural break point, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you kind of God's hand in everything in my life related to AV. I'm a data scientist. I don't do anything AV related in my job. It is not something that I was skilled in. It was not something that I was even hoping to join. Those were the people that they were there too much for me to want to do that, you know? But God was stirring in my life. I thought we lived in Virginia at the time, and I thought he was preparing us for a move to Lynchburg, away from DC, and it just, I didn't have a peace. God was not giving me a peace about that move, but I could feel this stirring in my heart. And what God was pointing us towards was a church plant. And so we left a 3,000 to 4,000 person church in the suburb of DC, and they had a church plant that just happened to be in the little bitty podunk town that we lived in. It was about 40 minutes away. And I started meeting with the pastor. We joined the team, and I was going to lead Sunday school. That is what I believe the spiritual gift that God has given me is teaching. I love teaching. It is something that I'm very passionate about, and I was ready to jump in. And what happens with a lot of church plants, there was a lot of jobs to do and not a lot of people to do them. And so he started asking, hey, could you do this? Could you do this? And he asked me, hey, you're in computers, right? Why don't you lead our AV team? And I said, that has nothing to do with this. You know, I'd never ran a soundboard. Yeah, but I said, I prayed about it, and I said, you know, I don't feel called to do this. I said, but I believe it is my responsibility to line my life up with God's will, not the other way around. And so I was like, I will give this a shot, and you may fire me very quickly. But we went in and we had a shoestring budget, and this was a school church plant. What you see there on the left is that picture of that church plant on one of our opening days. And we would do a tear up, set down every single Sunday. We would get there at 6 a.m. and not leave until about 1:30 in the afternoon every Sunday. And it was one of the most gratifying and blessed-filled opportunities that I've ever had. I had so much spiritual growth doing that during that time. And I thought it was really cool. And I got a job, and we chose to move down close to support my brother-in-law and my sister, and our entire family moved down to join this church. And I just thought, I was like, you know what, that was the blessing. God, you know, he blessed my ability, or he blessed my efforts, and it was just a rewarding time. And it was a bittersweet departure when we left, but I was like, I'm ready to go down. And I thought I would leave my AV world behind me. It was not something I wanted to do at Flat Creek, or I didn't intend to. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It's just, I wanted to teach. And so we show up to Flat Creek in December of 2019. And immediately after getting there, COVID hit. And we had a problem. And I'll talk about Flat Creek technically had a stream before COVID, but it was not something that was sustainable. It was not something that was good. And it was something that ironically, and in my opinion, divinely, God had prepared both my brother-in-law and myself to join Flat Creek at the right time. And we were immediately able to join that team and direct them. And we created a live stream experience from the ground up. And I just believe that it was divinely ordained, this stirring in his heart. And I believe it prepared it all the way up to this point, me sitting before you. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity, because I truly believe any church can implement this. If a church with no budget can implement something, then a church, you know, with a few dollars can implement something. And so I wanted to start with that before we went on. But this picture too, I don't want to go past this. This picture means a lot to me. Mm-hmm. This was the team that we joined during COVID. And I get emotional thinking about it because the bonds that were created, this was when we were supposed to be 6 feet apart and in masks. And we were here on
We don't listen well. Yeah,
and we were here late on a Saturday night filming stuff that we could post online. Josh came in, the worship team came in, and we didn't care. We were there to do this, and it's something it was a really cool experience. But I want to start here. And I also want to say the context that you're going to see all this is from my perspective. It's not Josh's, it's not Flat Creek's. It's like, hey, as the volunteer in charge of the live stream, what is your thoughts, your experiences here? And I truly believe the Bible verse says faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. The first primary reason that we stream at Flat Creek is to get the gospel out. Now, obviously, it is God's plan for us to all be a part of a body and to have community and do it often, and we understand that. But our primary responsibility is to sow the seed, and so that is one of the reasons and the primary reasons that we have this stream. And I don't want to throw a bunch of stats to you, but to give you an idea, on a given Sunday, how many people do we have in the room?
750, 800 plus.
750 to 800. On a given Sunday, we have typically about 70 families listening online. And that doesn't sound like a lot. It's not a lot. But what is crazy to me is what happens after that live stream. And we typically get around 300,000 to 500,000 unique viewers per year. And that's a lot, right? And if you think about the concept of the gospel being shared to that many people, it's incredible. And so that's our primary reason. The second, we don't do anything at Flat Creek for the sake of production. We don't view it that way. We view it more as a method to participate, to be plugged in, to engage. And so that is a primary reason we do that. And we talk to every team member that joins us. This is not about production. This is our primary reason for doing this is to engage with people. It is not a presentation we are putting online. It is an opportunity and a window and hopefully a door that they can eventually walk through in person. The next reason would be, the practical aspects is when you go online and watch a stream, you do get a window into this Flat Creek experience, what it's like to attend. And it has been shocking to me how many people have come and joined. And we have deacons right now that came because of the live stream, came because they saw a marketing share, online. And so there is a practical aspect to why we do it. And then one of my favorites as a data scientist in charge of the data strategy at Liberty University for academics and understanding, there is a strategy behind starting up and using a live stream. Like I said, there have been people that walk through the door. So we build it as a part of our overarching marketing strategy as a church, not for the showy production, but for a real practical way to get people to walk through our door eventually. And if you look at the stats, they are incredible of how people find churches now. Used to, the only way people would find churches was to drive by them. And now that is a minuscule amount of people. People are going online, and that is the first stop that they go to. And so it is something that we have to think about. And then the last one, and this is a lot of people that work in the AV booth are weird. Right? I say that as one of the weird ones. We're introverts, we're quiet, we don't engage with people naturally. We have our own method of communication. And I put this as a reason we stream. It gives us a place to belong. We're the most bizarre ragtag bad news bears group. That first picture, if you individually spoke to each of us, you're like, this is a crazy group of people. But you know what? These people, they come every week. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the demands on the team. Are people willingly, we try to get them off weeks and they're there anyway in the booth, just standing there. And it is a place that they belong. It gives them a place to serve. And so that's one of the reasons that I personally will always pursue this at whatever church we do. Mm-hmm. So our journey, I thought about different metaphors to share with you, and I thought about Christian songs and stuff, but I didn't want to insult anybody if there were some. So I'm going to give you a metaphor, and these are all the jobs that I had growing up, right? And so my very first job was picking blueberries. It was a terrible job. It was absolutely terrible. I would get paid by how many, how many pounds I picked, and I would eat more than I would save. And it was just not a very lucrative thing. But I really view what Flat Creek did before 2020. It was not great. It was terrible. Being transparent, like people would probably see it and choose not to come to a church because it was that bad.
And some of the reasons why it wasn't mixed well, the
Yep.
optics of it, as you look at it, it looked like it was a dead church.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like, everything about it was bad.
Yeah.
There was nothing in it that I even wanted. I mean, I'm the pastor of the place. I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I don't even want to look at it. And I agree with you. I mean, we sat and talked about it one day. It's like, this is just really, really not a good representation of who we are.
Yeah, I'll give more details in just a minute on that, but I have a purpose for this slide, and hopefully you'll see why. The next one, my next job was after we got through the terrible job. I was like, you know what? I want a job where I can hustle, that it doesn't involve food that I could eat, and so I started cutting yards. I did not have a car at the time. I wasn't 16 yet. I didn't have the funds to buy a car. And so I used what I had, and I went around, where we lived, and I cut yards and I hustled. And so that's what I view in 2020, 2021. That would be the theme that we started. We had no budget and we hustled, and God blessed that hustle. And then next, then we moved. I was like, all right, they kind of see some value here. We're going to throw a little bit of money here. And I got that hourly job. And Flat Creek invested a little bit of money in the grand scheme of things. Now it's not a lot of money at all, but it was a little bit. And you know what? We made things nicer, and it started to look much better. And that's really the first year where we started to see these tangible results in terms of getting people to walk through the door. And then in 2023, Flat Creek made what I would call a major investment in terms of...
Oh, there you go. Number.
Yep. In terms of a medium-sized church, a major investment for us. Ironically, we went and toured Rock Springs, and I asked their budget, and I will never say we have a big budget anymore. But that my very first salary job. And then, so that kind of brings us to where we are now. And I have some plans, and we have some budget dollars, and I'll talk about those plans in just a minute, but we're ready for our own office in the AV booth up there. And then beyond this, and the reason that I have this entire slide is this is again, the hood off. This is a process. And if you would have looked back, and even prior to me getting there in 2020 and looking and saying there would be no future for this church in a live stream. Look how terrible it is. And if you go up each step, and I remember like just blood, sweat, and tears that went into those cutting yards years, and how much hard work it was, and us being exhausted and saying it's not worth it. And God, again, blessing that good work. So I wanted to start off this way, as before I go into the nitpicky each year, I wanted to display, right now we're on charts to have the most record unique views across Facebook and YouTube than we have ever had, and it's not even close. And you're talking about to the 250,000 or 750,000 point. That's what we're on track to reach this year. And it's just crazy to me thinking back in just these short years how much God has blessed, this team and the faithfulness of them. So before 2020, I have these words up in the top right. I was asked, I was thinking like, what are some words that I would describe these years? And if you look at our this is legitimately one of the shots from the live stream. There was no dynamics. It just stayed this shot, right? And it was rough. It was cheap, which might be good or bad, depending on how you look at it. I always said it was like there for a record keeper. It's like if you needed minutes or something like that, like it was there. And I asked Josh when I first came, I was like, are we using a security camera? Like, what is this? It was ran, this is a great thing, it was ran by one person. It was one person. And then that the acronym here is you get what you pay for, right? It was free, and you got a free result there. And so the equipment that we were using at this time, it was one camera. It was a camcorder, and it was a loaner. Like, I don't even think we owned it. Someone loaned it to us. It sat up there. Nobody touched it. They would turn it on. And the audio legitimately was the little, fuzzy mic on the end of the camcorder. It was terrible. right? But again, and we would record it and they would actually push it to YouTube at the time. And so there was nothing live about it, but it could be ran by one volunteer. There were pros here. Obviously, there was no budget impact, and there was a very low volunteer impact. And the reason I say those are pros, again, you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and I will never advocate in this entire presentation that you drop a bunch of money and expect a result. Like, you have to start somewhere. And I just want to say our journey started with this, right? And then in terms of cons, obviously the quality, and when you look at our views now, you were talking about we would get typically 10 to 15 views per week that would never go up. It was literally 10 to 15, 10 to 15, 10 to 15. And then obviously in COVID, we introduced some new technology, and we had a shoestring budget. And by shoestring, to give you some ideas, we had $2,000 and to do everything. Like, that included audio, it included cameras, it included mixer, it included any subscriptions. So $2,000. And I would describe this time as it was a grind. But at the same time, it was a bond-making experience. And in my opinion, we got tremendous value. We had speakers come in, and they would look at our stream, and they're like, we didn't even see any cameras. Like, these are great. Where are you doing? I was like, well, those are phones that we're using. What? Like, I forget, it was the pastor at First Baptist Atlanta. He came and spoke for us, and he actually reached out to us and wanted us to show him the phones and the setup.
Get this, Anthony George was like, how are you doing this?
Yes.
I think you're First Baptist Atlanta. You can figure this out.
All right.
But how many phones did you go through?
We went through a lot of phones.
Like, we were burning up people's personal phones. Yeah. Like, this wasn't Flat Creek phones. I mean, he went through like 4 or 5 phones in this season. Yeah. I mean, we were burning up people's, when he says grind, there was a price for us to pay here. This wasn't given to us. We had to grind.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was very much learn as you go. There was no training. It was like, hey, we got this cool thing. And there were some naturally curious people on our team, and we figured it out. And it was really cool. It was most certainly scalable. It was something that you could have a bunch of these setups. You could do this today. You could go out there, and we actually had, our Hispanic, we have a Hispanic pastor that went and taught or led another church, and we gave him this entire setup, and that's how they do their stuff today.
Arturo Rodriguez was a deacon in our church, and we've sent him out, and he's doing, if you watch it, you can see him start, he's in this grind stage now, and we're really proud of him. We really are.
And then the last thing, again, you get what you pay for. It was $2,000. It was an increase from this free thing, and in my opinion, it was a tremendous mountain of growth that we saw. But we used something called Sling Studio. I have all of this in this packet, so don't worry about writing any of this down if you don't want to. But it was a product that basically allows you to use phones, to use cameras, and it just has this one hub that you pump everything to, and then that hub pumps it to the internet. But we had 3 cameras, all of them phones. I'm sorry, we have one camcorder, that same loaner one. And I think we actually, we ran, if I remember right, the XLR came from our board directly into the camera, and then it went into a converter box, and then it went to the Sling Studio. It was the most janky thing that you've ever seen, but it worked. And we did have like the gimbals, the DJI, like little cheap gimbals. We had that. And then it was live for the first time ever. We had the ability, if we wanted to go live, you could. Now, during COVID, we recorded on Saturday and posted kind of a live experience on Sundays. But then once COVID, when we started meeting in person, we did shift to a fully live service, which was exciting for us. And it changed the volunteer. Everything I say here to the volunteers, we actually use more volunteers than this, but this is specific to the live stream. We have lighting and in-room things that I didn't include in this. But for the live stream, this required 5 volunteers. And I have this as a high volunteer impact. And the reason why, you'll see in just a few when we get into kind of, this more efficient way. This wasn't very efficient in terms of volunteers, but it was successful, I believe, in terms of the quality that you got. Pros, very low budget, $2,000 start to finish. which I think is an exceptional value. And you could literally do this in a sanctuary. You could do this in a fellowship hall. You could do this in the parking lot if you wanted to. You just need some sort of internet connection. And we were using a cell phone internet connection for some of it. So there's a lot of flexibility. In terms of cons, again, that high volunteer impact, there were some bugs we're going to talk about in lessons learned. As you implement things like this or you're considering it, there needs to be some expectation grace that needs to be shown. There are some real things, right? Satan has dominion over earth, and I feel that he lives in the technology world, right? Tech demons are real. And then again, the hodgepodge equipment, which again might be a pro, depending on, if you have stuff sitting around. But I did go through quite a few personal phones, which my wife did not like. And then after this, again, this is when Flat Creek decided we're going to invest more money, and it was significantly more. We went from $2,000 to a $20,000 one-time implementation. We did use a consultant, but it was a local person. It wasn't a big company. His services were very cheap and reasonable, but that did come, I think, at a cost to us, which I'll talk about in a second. But the way that this was, again, the first time that we saw results. People walking in the door that said, hey, I saw your stream and I want to know more about this church. And that was super exciting to the AV team. I mean, just like we beamed, it's like, wow, you feel like you're putting in all this effort and you think it's cool, but you don't really think a lot of people appreciate it. I told him on the way over here, in the IT world, and probably political world too, things go right 99% of the time, but the 1% it doesn't, that's when you hear about it. Yeah. Same thing in
That's
AV.
when everybody turns around and looks in the back and like, what are you guys doing back there?
So it was really cool to see results. Definitely a blessing. I just wrote nice. I don't know why I put nice. I think it's like, I remember walking in when we had all these new cameras. I was like, wow, this is nice. We thought we had made it, and we thought we were ready to broadcast live television. And it was cool. I will say it was difficult. It was a very steep learning curve from this hodgepodge set to now professional equipment. And the fact that it didn't come with training, we still resulted in a lot of time and effort that was spent in learning these and kind of perfecting our craft. It was definitely doable though. And then it did change when you have one phone, right, and one button to push. The caliber of volunteer kind of changed a little bit, right? It had to be somebody that could do more than this. Right. And it wasn't bad, but it did change the volunteer need. And oh, shocker, you get what you pay for. Right. We saw results that were way more than what we had ever had. And I think it was, in my opinion, exponentially valuable in terms of the investment made. The equipment that we were using, you mentioned OBS a while ago. We were using OBS at this time. And we used a Blackmagic product called the A10 Mini Pro. It's just a little 4-button switcher. Super easy, plug and play. You plug it in there, and we had one of those, and it was great. We used 4 Blackmagic 4K Studio Pros, which is not designed for our auditorium. They're a little bit too far away, but it works, and we actually are pretty pleased with it. And we still use it now. It was definitely a really good investment. And then we use one DSLR camera, and this is just like the standard one of those. Any of those work with this system. You can plug it in, and we use some other networking things to get that there. But we had the Behringer Wing, and this was the first time where we were actually mixing what we were putting into the stream. Game changer. A lot of people don't think about sound, but if you go now, what is your tolerance for listening to a video with poor audio quality?
You could have a great singer in the room, but if you're watching it as a guest for the first time online, and it could turn you off in a second.
Yep. We were using a product called Restream now we could not only just do YouTube or just Facebook, we could simultaneously do both. And that increased, I was shocked at the results and how many viewers it would bring in. It basically, as you would think, it doubled what we would bring in, which was nice. And that did shift it to 8 volunteers, which again is a high volunteer impact. The budget obviously is a con. I think it was wisely spent, but I know a lot of churches, I would never recommend you immediately spending this. just to be clear. It's something that we needed, that learning curve, and it was kind of a natural progression. The pros here, the quality was amazing. It really was amazing for what we had previously and what we were able to do then. The view counts absolutely took off. From this point on, that's where we started to see these crazy numbers. I thought they were mistakes. It's like there is no way that we are getting this type of views. And so that was cool. But again, the tangible results, like this is God honoring the investment, B, the commitment that the team was making, and our leader's vision. And it was amazing to be a part of. This guy right here, just a side note, does anybody know him?
Eric Gonzalez,
He's a mortician, or he's a
deputy.
He's like the
Deputy
medical
coroner,
examiner.
Deputy coroner down in South
And the
Georgia.
dude can sing. He's like a all-star singer. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's in South Georgia.
Yeah.
Eric Gonzalez. If you haven't had him to your church, you need to. He's awesome. He can. And yeah, he's great.
So in 2024, and I think this will be probably we'll take a break after this. Is that okay, Jimmy, or is that good on time, or should I keep going?
They're saying just a few more minutes, so
Okay, okay, we can keep going. Yeah.
We can. You just stop us when we're there.
Yep.
Hey, can I ask a question? I know you're probably going to get to this.
Yep.
But you've made several statements about, and I wrote it down. This is my words, not yours. But that there's a value in the incremental struggle. Don't spend a lot up front, but you have to have a certain amount to begin quality. Why is that a good idea?
Well, I mean, I'm just telling you from my experience at both the church plant as well as this one, and I'll tell you why I learned that lesson. And it was actually in this shift when we invested almost $40,000. Well, actually it was 20 more. So we had the 20 and then we did another 20. And we started to getting these tools and stuff that we weren't using the right way. Right, we were doing things the wrong way, and then we would call these new resources we had, and like, why are you doing it this way? I don't know if you know Galen from Atlanta Soundworks, but he's a member of our church, and I think we've made him pull his hair out, like how we've done things. But I think it's you learn little bits of information each time, and then you retain that information, and then you take it to the next level. And I just haven't seen where if you make a major investment and drop all of this, unless you spend a lot of money on training and time, I don't think that it would work out. But that's just my own experience.
And
I might be wrong.
pastor perspective on that is stewardship. The team was bonding, and the church was seeing the effort being put into it. They're seeing the progression as well. So stewardship team, the church body was starting to see, the homebounds were starting to see this. If you were sick, they were starting to see the quality of this improve. They were starting to see guests start to come. They were starting to hear folks in testimony where it's like, I came because of the live stream. So it was all starting to catch up with one another as well.
Yeah.
We had to earn the right kind of to be there to say the church now is, that first picture, they knew we were there till midnight. We were putting in crazy hours as I was there, they were there, and it was the team leading our church. No one could deny, no one else was putting in the hours, and they were starting to see the fruit of what was taking place. And it was hard to ignore when, guests are coming who just moved into the community. I think of Mark and Deb Kerr. They move here. They retire from Michigan. They come here because their kids are here. They come because they found us online. We are the first church they saw because of an ad that came to them. They come, but now he's on staff. But his first exposure to us was online, and he's on staff now. And he started as a personnel member, and then we hired him, and he's using his gifts for the Lord. In fact, they're singing this morning at our Touching Hearts, and it's crazy. But it started with this right here.
The stewardship is a real thing. I remember when we went into the first business meeting where we were asking from 2,000 to 20,000. I said, Josh, how is this going to go? It's like, I don't know. Right. And so, but then once they saw that incremental, growth, when we went and asked the second 20, no problem. Do you need more? And we were trying to be good stewards too. It's like, you know what? No. And right now, when I talk about in just a second, the 2026, you'll see that. But So when we shifted from this 20 to 30 to 40, and I say that because I tried to get a concrete number and I couldn't pull the budget reports. It's somewhere north of 30, but definitely under 40. This is where we had rhythm, and we had rhythm going into it, and we saw that rhythm kind of keep us going forward. And again, it's like exponential benefits when you do that. The quality is unmatched. And Rock Springs, their person has looked at their person over their stream and their AV. He goes, you're not going to get anything better without pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. Basically, there are plateaus. And he says, you've accomplished this plateau with what they would call a minuscule budget. And so I'm pretty proud of that. It's definitely complex. And if you go up there, there are wires and networking things everywhere. I didn't put this in here, but let me tell you one budget line item, and that is a HDMI splitter. We go through one a month. And it's crazy because in the middle of a service, we will be underneath something, changing that out. And he never knows. And then it does take a big team. And I'll tell you, one of my goals is to make us more efficient. We are considering, multiple services with the growth that we've had. And I was like, I can't ask these people, I can't ask 11 people to come every week for two services with a Sunday school in between. So it is one of our goals. And then again, you get what you pay for. We made a major investment. I believe we got, amazing results. So we use a service now called Resi. We switched away from the OBS and we were having some issues there, dependability issues. And it is a free software, OBS is. And when something would go wrong, when it's free, there's no support. And we needed that, and we needed somebody that we could say, hey, this is not happening. I will also say this is not in here. I would be worried as a culture about these public methods that we are getting our content out on. We are a very short time away, I believe, from highly editing what we are allowed to as believers put online. And so I would encourage you to
Can you explain what that means? Like Facebook, for example, we're doing a Facebook Live service that they would have the ability to shut down.
We are highly dependent. I mean, they are our method of, any of you YouTube TV people right now? I couldn't watch college football last week. I sent an angry email because they're beefing with Disney. At some point, someone is going to beef with the church about the truth that we are putting out there, and we will not have a delivery mechanism, and it's something that we need to get ahead of. And there are solutions.
That's a huge statement.
It is.
Because they can ultimately shut it down. And there was even if you can kind of see the flicker of it with music that you put, like even copyright stuff, they kind of just shut down the whole deal.
And the reason that we went with Resi is a Christian organization that has this on their radar, and they actually have an infrastructure that could technically overnight deliver that if they needed to. They were also highly supportive. Now this was a big budget increase for us. It's $200 a month, and we have the lowest level of support, but it's enough for us. And then we're still using all that same computer, the same switcher, those cameras. We did add more mobile things, and I would encourage you to really, if I were to do this all again, I would probably not get 4 studio cameras. I would invest more in this gimbal aspect because it's so flexible. We can do stuff outside. We can do stuff, if we go up into the baptistry, we can get really creative camera shots that we can't do with these mounted cameras. That's just what would work in our specific auditorium. There are other solutions as well. We upgraded some of our switchers, and we upgraded some of the wing. We got Dante and did some things to help on the sound. And Resi is a hardware encoder, so it's not dependent on your computer's ability to process. And so the reliability and the end product has been amazing with Resi. We've had no losses the entire year we've been using it now, which with OBS we were losing stuff, at least packets, once or twice a month, and it was very annoying.
What do you mean by losing stuff?
Like in the middle of the sermon, it would basically freeze and buffer and buffer and buffer. And there was nothing that we could do.
It always does it at the sermon, but never during the music. It's my constant complaint. It's always during the sermon that we struggle.
Yep.
But it's not them. It's the software.
So the pros, exceptional quality. Again, we're on the top of that plateau. We're getting our viewer counts again go up incrementally with the amount of money you spend, which is what we would expect, and that's good. More tangible results, and then the cons, obviously the budget impact. We have basically, in my opinion, reached the top of the machinery and software budget. I don't anticipate us spending many more dollars. Now, the upkeep when these things go bad, and there is a lifespan that we want to pre-build into budgets, but that is there. So then what is next? What is next? What I'm going into right now is the build volunteer base phase, and we need more. We need to recruit, and that is not always easy. Especially, just a lesson learned from us. I didn't include this, but just thinking about it now, most of our crew work every week. We enjoy it. This is a crew that's been together since COVID. We have bonds. We care about one another. We have a lot of new people in the church, and they see us all up there every single week, and they're like, I can't make that kind of commitment. And so it is a real thing that when I talk to these, like, you're not going to have to do that. We're doing that because we want to. We enjoy it. But that's been a barrier for us to get more volunteers. And so it's something that we're building. My only request this year for this year's budget going in there was like, I need like someone who is here. They don't have to be full-time supporting us, but I need someone who is in the building and being paid for it that I can call during the week and say, hey, there's a problem. Can you dedicate time? And so our pastor is blessing us this year with a part-time person to help with that. And I think, like all the other investments Flat Creek has made, I think this is going to pay off in major ways. It's going to help with that, with the exhaustion, I think, from these volunteers. It's going to give us more bandwidth to do some other things that we haven't had time, and so I'm excited. The next thing is training. What I would love is for Flat Creek to be this like farm system for these AV teams. And what I mean by that is, like, we have kids. My daughter she's in 6th grade, but she does the sound for the elementary school kids in their area. She has a soundboard. She has the same software we use. And she has a couple other people that do it with her. And then we have a youth center, and they're using all youth volunteers to do this. And what's really cool is when we have a hole filled, a hole come up on our team, we bring them up within the church, and we're not relying on someone off the street. It's somebody who's actually had training. And what's really cool? To have a 55-year-old light person training someone who's 16. Mm-hmm. Like, that gives, I know there's not like concrete value, there's intrinsic value, and like, hey, this is a discipleship tool. You can teach these people, hey, use this gift that God has given you in a unique way. And that I can't even tell you how impactful that is to the whole family of AV volunteers. Equipment maintenance, this is real. Learn this lesson from us. If you don't budget for this, you have these crazy expensive things that pop up, and then you got to go to the church and why did this happen? Right? So I would say build in, like basically like you do capital expenditures. You say, hey, there's going to be some maintenance cost on this equipment that you need to go ahead and pre-plan. It's nothing crazy. I mean, you're talking about $2,000-$3,000 cameras, but you know what happens? They break, and you got to send them.
And a real-time lesson for us right now is that once you make the investment, that doesn't mean it's good till Jesus comes.
Right.
Because technology outdates itself rapidly. And so that's a real-time lesson we're learning. It's like, wait, we bought that 5 years ago. Well, it's outdated now. So there's a whole new world we're stepping into for sure.
This next one you might not like, right? My role at Liberty University is to basically determine and implement an AI strategy within the organization. Like, I know a lot of people don't like AI in the churches, right? You can be wrong. That's okay. I won't even tell you the joke I was going to say.
Let me give you a real-time example as of last night how we used AI. How it was very helpful for us. It almost eliminates even your church clerk, because we had a church conference last night and we had AI record our entire meeting, and it had, within me saying amen at the conclusion of it, all of our minutes prepared. Mm-hmm. And what we did is went in and formatted it. to where it fit our format, but everything was done within seconds of our church conference.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
In the AV world, it's easier, right? It's harder to sell AI when you're talking about spiritual things. I agree, 100%.
Yeah, we're not
But
saying let it author anything. We're saying let it assist you. That's a big difference there.
Yeah. The joke I was going to say that I tell my wife hates when I was like, take on the role of the Holy Spirit. Just joking.
No.
Don't do that.
We'll see
do
why
that.
she hates that.
Yeah, I know. In the AV world, though, AI is incredibly powerful for making a small team much more mighty. And so that's what we are implementing are some things that are actually saving the church costs as well as reducing our burden on volunteer generation. And to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a win-win for that. So that's kind of what's going to happen this upcoming year. And all of the AI stuff that we're implementing is completely free. It's just you have to know about it, and I have some resources that I can definitely point you at. All right.
Are we still good on time? We're good?
So good.
Okay. Yeah.
You see her put food out.
Okay.
Well,
All right. So
yeah,
so
we'll all
this is
lose
where
you.
I wanted to shift. Any questions about our journey?
Just a little bit of the vision too. We're aiming at Trilith. Just so you know the heartbeat behind Flat Creek. We're not caught up, but we're aiming there. And we want to be right there when it happens. We're pushing to that end. I'd love to see us. I'm not leaving that to Louie to figure out. Flat Creek's coming. I'm not leaving that to any other church in North Fayette. Flat Creek's coming. We are going to hit that group at some point. The Kendrick brothers, they're not going to be the only person in that space. We're coming. And I mean that with all my heart. God has just put in us at Flat Creek a vision for this. And it's been fun to see the church get behind it as well. And so we have big, it's fascinating as a pastor too, of how many people watch the service. I hear this almost on a weekly basis of young families to more mature saints that watch us online for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then on Sunday, they finally commit to come. And inevitably, they'll come to me and say, I've been watching for weeks online. Today is my first Sunday. And I want to tell you how great this experience was. I mean, that to me is shocking because, friends, it's opened a door for me to minister to country artists in our community, to folks who just come off the street. And all because they saw a clip, because they saw an ad, because these guys, one of the coolest things is Vody Bauckham came to preach for us. Vody has preached a dynamic message, but the kid who was filming it was our nephew. He's 14, 12 at the time, and he's walking around with a gimbal and had over 1 million views within like a week.
Mm-hmm.
He's 14 years old walking around with a gimbal and over 1 million views in a week because a 14-year-old was asked, hey, can you hold this? That's awesome. And we're pushing every envelope we possibly can. I'm uncomfortable at times, but I'm embracing this as how can we use it to advance the gospel in our community. And it's uncomfortable spaces. It's not, I have to learn things. I have to learn tools that these guys are talking about. And yeah.
Yeah, you're, and it's more than just the service. You're doing other videos outside that point to the service though too, right? Aren't you
Absolutely.
doing all kinds of like promotion things, or here's what's coming up, and here's what you can experience if you do this, like other events. You're tagging those with your
Absolutely. We use drones. We use everything we possibly can. We've tapped into marketing folks. I mean, if you let me, I'll baptize Big Brother and I'll get in your neck of the woods real fast. I mean, I'm doing everything I can, using every means possible, and that may make you feel uncomfortable, certainly, but I'm trying to get to you, and I don't care what it takes to do it. And so I may push on them a little bit with that.
I have one other question. Going back to the earlier days with the gimbals and the phones, you had like what three phones, and they were moving, they were walking around, and they were getting different angles and things like that. How did you direct them? How did you know?
It's a great question.
Train them to get because the shot is, if it's crooked or if it's not framed right, it just looks bad, but you had a way of getting them to.
So that's a really good question. Now, in terms of like practical direction, we do have a director. That's one of our roles that is dictating shots. But in terms of like learning that, there was no professional training, but what we did do, and I would highly encourage, like as a staff of your church, sit and watch your stream and then communicate with your team and tell them what you do and don't like. There's been shots and there have been things that Josh comes in a very nice way. It's like, don't do this.
Yeah, it's
again,
like
you
a
know?
shot on my neck, and it's
Yeah.
like I look like trash, and I'm just like,
That's your good side.
yeah, like at least make me look somewhat decent.
Yeah, but I will say, like, you have to have the right people, and I don't mean with the technical skill, but you have to have people that want to get better. They have pride in what they do. That is one of the number one aspects that you look at is like, hey, we're putting out something here, and we're doing it not for ourselves, right? We're doing it to spread the gospel, and don't you want to give your best to Jesus, right? And so that's something that is important.
There's practical things too. I mean, we brought back the modesty roll, but put LED lights on it because where the camera was
Right.
is just straight on. And we have a choir that we're super proud of, and they're just crushing it. But you have to put a wall there up because we're not wearing robes, but you just have to protect. Any distraction can take away from what God is doing in the room or at home. And so we found a creative way to make it appealing online to where it's what we would have called the old school modesty rail because of where the camera angle is. So we've gotten even so hypersensitive to where what does it take away from the message when you watch it? We look at this every week and review it and critical of it, and we try to make it better every week.
So looking at it, it actually changed. Y'all changed your platform,
Yeah, we did.
so it would be easier to not distract away from video wise.
Yeah.
But having been there, I would say it also helps in person too as well. It doesn't take away from it.
Did we put hazers in there too, which
Yeah,
was really,
absolutely.
which is a great experience for anybody, especially when people come back from COVID and there's haze and lights and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And I just told them all it killed COVID. Don't worry about it. Which isn't true. So there's what they would refer to as smoke. And then you get the smoke and mirrors. Oh, I'm in a bar kind of situation, which my dad was a bar DJ growing up. I'm here to tell you, Flat Creek's not a bar. I know what that scene looks like. I was the DJ light man for my dad, so I get what that looks like. But
On a camera, it gives depth.
well, and that's
Like
there's
it makes-
there's an artistic reason why we do it. It draws the lights out when you're watching it. It gives the depth, and so when we pull back the curtain and say, hey, here's why. When you're at home, we want to do the best we can visually for those who are watching online. And the room kind of go, oh, okay. I mean, you appreciated it during COVID when it was appealing to you. Well, think about the guest and think about the homebound who's watching it. We're trying to reach them just as much as those in the room.
I don't, and I want to go back to what I originally said. Like, we're not doing this for production value. Like, it's, even though it looks nice, and large productions do use it. If you think about what lighting does and what haze does and strategic darkness, right? There's a lot of distraction behind speakers in churches. When you have a choir, there are people doing things that you wish they wouldn't do at the times you wish they wouldn't do them, you know. And it allows the person, like right now, it's me and the Holy Spirit, you know, and it just eliminates distraction. And that happens online too. Like, people will tend to follow movement. And so it allows you to bring control where you want people's focus being.
Yeah, and stained glass is artistic design for worship as well. What we try to just accomplish is eliminate any distraction so we can worship the Lord. And I play off of our past. So in our history, we have a rich history of theatric drama around the passion plays. For years, we had a dynamic presentation. Has anybody ever been to that? Years ago at Flat Creek, we used to do this really passion play that just captivated the community. They used all kinds of tools during that time. And so it's the same element. We're trying to draw out the message and eliminate distractions, and we're getting more people. For me, the success of ministry is the involvement of people, and as we involve more people into the Sunday morning worship service in serving, that's success for me. And so I'm just thrilled that the church has bought on to that vision. That's a good question, Jimmy. Is there another one?
Yeah, we were talking about YouTube and Facebook, what happens when, obviously you want to be where the audience is? Is there another service, another application or something where we can, when people are searching for churches or whatever that comes up through the screen? Is there a service that you use besides that? Just saying news away?
So there are methods to do it without YouTube and Facebook. The reason that we use YouTube and Facebook is because the social side is already there. People get notifications and stuff. We could technically even live stream to our website if you embedded the video the right way. But there are services, and there are some that what's the church in Oklahoma? The really big one.
Live church.
Yeah, Craig Rochelle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have a platform that they developed to deliver church services with the social built in. It's just not a lot of people use it. It's very affordable too. It's just they don't have the pre-existing, audience that are using it. There are most certainly, but I think what you will see is you're going to see this as this tighten, as the culture tightens down on our freedom of speech. You're going to see those grow. And so I would say there is always a way to get it out there. You just have to be, ahead of it. I wouldn't have all your eggs in that basket. That's all I would say.
And he's helped me with that because I thought the audience is in Facebook. Well, we need to expand that to YouTube because he was seeing things that some glimmers there that we need to expand this out more. So he was very helpful there.
Question? No?
I've kind of a statement / question. So in the beginning, you were talking about how bad it was. So tying that into a budget, right, and with us being a church plant, would it be wiser on our end to record it and upload it versus live until your budget grows?
I would.
And maybe not upload that week if it's not because it's better for them not to see it at all sometimes than it is to.
Yeah, we actually killed ours because we were like, this isn't what we need to put out, and then we resurrected it with a different approach.
I would also, even in terms of budget, I would do it in terms of like audience growth. There is one of the things I'm going to talk about in the lessons learned is the right kind of people. There is stresses that come with a live production as opposed to a pre-recorded thing. And you're putting a lot of stress on your team, and there is a cost to that, right? It is hard to retain people when you haven't given them enough money to do what you're asking them to do, right? And so it's a way that you can pull the pressure off, say, hey, just record it. It doesn't have to go perfectly, and we can figure it out afterwards, and I think there's some value in that. But I can point you to specific resources and get you recording a very quality product with no to low money.
Can you edit your background?
When you mean like something like this?
Say you don't want a black background and you're sitting in church and you're recording it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you pre-record it, take it. Is there a software that can can you change your background?
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes. It probably wouldn't look great, but you could do it. Like there's background removers and things like that. But it depends on the background itself. And the way that works, there's something called a downstream key. And what that is, it chooses one color and it says, I want you to remove this color and replace it with an image or do something like that. So if your background has a bunch of other colors, like it would depend on the background itself as the success, but that's how that software works. It's looking for that color and it's going to take that color out.
So you can dull it down there.
Yeah. So if it's just black, it's actually pretty easy to do what you're saying. But if there's writing on it and stuff.
Or if it's just like white.
Yeah, white's even easier than black. So yeah, you just have to watch out what your speakers are wearing. Sometimes that can be funny.
Yeah, and they've come to me and like, hey, you can't wear that.
Yes.
Like that
is true. I'm dead serious.
I'm like, man, this looks great. I have all these checks and all this kind of stuff, and then they come in and they're like, nope, no, don't do that again. So we've even had to be mindful. That's the learning curve of because I've pastored the church of 30. So I don't know sometimes. I've had TV ministries, but this is a whole different animal. And so just learning with these guys has been so helpful. Darker colors are better there. I've learned that.
So darker?
Yeah. They like when I wear blue.
Yeah, blue.
Yeah, solids are good. Yeah.
I know a lot of the focus so far has been on streaming, which is excellent. Appreciate that. But once you invest in this equipment, take things up a level, then you have the tools to record training videos, all kinds of other means of recording video and getting it out there. Give us some examples outside of live streaming, how you've used the equipment to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, one easy way is the other areas of the church that aren't in our auditorium. So things in the youth room, things in the children's area, being able to use professional equipment for that, as opposed to having to use somebody's phone, which now phones are actually really good in terms of quality. But we do a lot of events outside. So being able to take cameras, I mean, we've had services outside where we were able to take good equipment because it was quality and move it and use it, and have a service with sound and nice stuff outside.
Yeah,
So it's
Fall Fest, egg drops, extravaganza, whatever you call it. You have all those events outside, and we're capturing footage there too. And it's also allowed us in partnership with other things. We use a team called Harbinger that Kyle's probably going to speak into a little bit as well. That's helped us cast what we're capturing. They do clips every week for us and throw those out. So, I mean,
You said you do podcasts, right? Like, or you're getting ready to?
Yeah.
We had a room, remember, before we got asbestos, we have
real issues at Flat Creek. We just tore
We
down
had a room for
asbestos and
podcasts.
mold, and we'll tell you the real story.
We
man.
even put up, sound like dampeners and stuff, so we could have a podcast room using the same equipment. So you're right, like that.
We haven't had offices in 5 years at the church. So none of our staff, we're scattered. I'm in a library.
That is fun.
And this is not, our facilities, our biggest challenge at Flat Creek, you'll come and there's such a gap between what you see online and the physical footprint at Flat Creek. And so we're trying to raise $12 million to try to fix some of that. So we have a long way to go because that's a challenge for us.
Maybe